First Nations people are often known by other names, like Indians, Natives, Native Canadians, Native Americans, American Indians, and Amerindians. In Canada, the First Nations are the predominant Indigenous people in Canada south of the Arctic Circle. There is no definitive and overarching Indigenous religion, and their spiritual beliefs vary widely. However, there are commonalities among the indigenous spiritual traditions, including the presence of creation stories. Creation stories describe the origin of the cosmos and the interaction of its elements. They also tell about the origin of the moon, the sun, the stars, and human beings. These tales can act as histories and lessons about the environment, the heavens, the human relations to the world and to one another.
Long, long time ago, before all those scientific resources exist, the First Nations has already started questioning about what all those things that they can only see above their heads are. To answer the question, First Nations began to look into the dark sky with their naked eyes. Without light pollution and high rises at that time, the dark, beautiful skies provided them with the details of the stars, planets, and moon that we can only imagine today. The sky to First Nations people is a map, a clock, a calendar, and a compass. They always find the universe interesting to look at because they can put everything into stories, tales, and myths. These stories were meant to be passed on in oral form from one generation to another as a living system of knowledge which they cherish and enjoy. This knowledge system they constructed is completely different from that of modern-day scientists and astronomers. It is all based on traditions that do not have a right or wrong side because it is so-called social cultural astronomy. Different cultures have their own languages. Therefore, there were so many versions of universe back in those times.
Here are some myths that is still famous nowadays. In the creation myth known to Navajos, Coyote's role is to interfere with the placings of the stars. The myth states no one knew what to do, so they asked the coyote. When the coyote was asked about the sky and the universe, Coyote would make up fun stories about what it can see. These stories were passed into different generations. Another one is called the Pleiades. It is about the seven sisters of the sun and the moon escaping from a bear's attack. Then they step into a rock and the rock grow into the sky, and eventually they become the stars. The stars are the star clusters inside the Taurus constellation. Today's perspective of the universe. What is the universe? The term the universe was first used by Romans to refer to the world in the cosmos as they knew it. Today, the term theory of everything is often used to refer to all things that exist within the known universe, which includes the solar system, the Milky Way, and all known galaxies and superstructures. Origins of the universe. The current scientific consensus is that the universe expanded from a point of super high matter and energy density, roughly 13.8 billion years ago. This theory is known as the Big Bang Theory. Tools improvement on the view of the universe. Until the 15th century, the invention of the telescopes allowed astronomers to probe the origins of the universe and study how it has changed over the time. NASA's Hubble Space Telescopes provide a new perspective on the remote universe. Now, NASA's James Space Telescope is currently in development. Scientists anticipate using Webb to look even further back in time to find young growing galaxies, as they exist only a few hundred million years after the universe began and theorized in Big Bang.
Human beings have been contemplating and studying the nature of the universe since prehistoric times. The earliest accounts of how the universe came to be were mythological in nature and passed down orally from one generation to the next. In these stories, the word, space, time, and all life began with a creation event, where a god or gods were responsible for creating everything. Modern scientists and astronomers would have difficulty in empathizing with the First Nations' conception of the universe. Their universe is not the universe of the Big Bang, nor the theory of accelerating expansion. In the First Nations astronomy, the origin of the universe goes back to a time called the Dreaming.
First Nations' perspective of the universe are based on myths, which are traditional stories in the early history of explaining some supernatural phenomenon. However, they are based on people's imagination, so they are controversial. Today, as our tools used to look into the universe improved, our perspectives are based on the scientific evidences which are more convinced and supported. Also, First Nations' understanding about the universe comes from different people's view from different tribes, which cannot be organized or fully explained. But our conclusion is discussed and observed by many scientists altogether, which is fully developed.
In conclusion, the First Nations' perspective of the universe is different from ours because of the improvements in technologies.
Until now, the universe is not fully explored. As the humans continue exploring the universe, more and more theories will come out.
The First Nations' perspective of the universe will not be forgotten, and it will remain as the base of what we have now and the further exploration of the universe in the future.